As Isabel said, I will be talking today about some of the work that we have been developing around the issue of equity, diversity and inclusion for non-governmental organizations. So before I start, I just wanted to give you a brief overview of what Keystone Accountability is. So we are a not-for-profit organization that our mission is to help organizations understand and improve their social performance by harnessing feedback, especially from the people that they serve and that are most affected by their work. We do this in a number of ways. We have developed a specific methodology that is called constituent voice, and we also provide consulting, tailored consulting services to international NGOs and other actors, mainly operating in the international development cooperation field. And but we also do it through a series of kind of standardized products, and one of which and for which we are most known is the INGO partner surveys. So this is a tool that we have developed about 10 years ago, and some of you may know about it because I think I saw a couple of names of organizations that have actually been part of this survey. So in that survey, what we do is that we work with international NGOs to collect perceptions from their local partners about the power dynamics and the quality of relationships between the NGO and their partners. What is particular about this tool is that in the last 10 years we have been able to apply this with a little bit over 80 different international NGOs, and we have built a database of more than 5,000 responses from local partner organizations on their perceptions about those NGOs. And hence we have been able to build benchmarks for the sector around specific issues regarding those relationships. Now this is relevant, I'm only just mentioning this because it is based on this experience and taken a little bit by the urgency faced by our sector in this last year. We have decided to apply a similar approach, looking at the challenges that NGOs face internally when it comes to applying the values and principles of equity, diversity and inclusion and safeguarding. So just to start off with some definitions, equity, diversity and inclusion are terms that are used interchangeably. They are interrelated and interconnected. They do, however, each one of them have a different meaning and different definition. So when we talk about equity in organizations, we're referring to the fair treatment and justice within the processes and procedures of these organizations, making sure it is not only about equality, so not that looking at if everyone is being treated the same way, but rather whether they all receive fair treatment, have access, opportunity, and possibilities for advancement within that organization. Diversity refers to all the ways in which people differ, the different characteristics that different individuals or groups may have within the same organization. Very usually we refer to race, ethnicity, gender, But also, for example, in the work that we have been developing at Keystone, we include characteristics such as religion, disability, sexual orientation, age, socioeconomic status, education, marital status, or family status, if I would say, especially whether people have caring responsibilities or not, as we know that this affects a lot how they might be perceived at the workplace. When it comes to inclusion, we're talking about proactively creating a climate within organizations in which everyone can feel welcome and respected and supported, and that they are able to fully participate. As I said, the terms are interlinked, but while diversity might be a precondition for inclusion, having a diverse organization in itself does not mean that this organization is necessarily inclusive. So there has to be a rather purposeful and proactive way for addressing inclusion in organizations. So why are these questions of equity, diversity, and inclusion important in organizations? I think it's relatively kind of stating the obvious, but it is mainly about really walking the talk and understanding that as we have a duty to the communities that we serve and to the partners that we work with, we also have a duty to our staff and to our volunteers. And we have to apply these values that we apply externally, we have to apply them internally as well. And it forms part of both our internal and external accountability and responsibility as organizations. As we all, I think, know from our experience, is how we operate internally, how we put in practice these values, and the different way we approach culture and what kind of culture exists in the workplace reflects immediately and directly in how we work with communities and partners. It is about acknowledging the inherent power dynamics that exist in all kinds of organizations, and very specifically to international NGOs. Power dynamics that are in relation not only to different groups, to the different groups that exist within the same office or workplace, but also very importantly, and this is kind of a situation that happens in many organizations, that power dynamic that exists between headquarters and local offices of the same organization. Of course, there is an urgency factor here that has to do with the Aid 2 crisis that we lived this last year and has been preoccupying a lot of us and a lot of our organizations, and has touched to a lot of our organizations. It is the well-known safeguarding crisis that, for example, I know, in the UK, DFID has been convening very specific events and task forces around this. I know in the Netherlands as well, organizations have been getting together to address this safeguarding crisis. And well, it's been in the news, and it is, even though it is, the news have been about very specific organizations, it has kind of put all NGOs in the spotlight and kind of demands an action from our side to show that we are engaged and that we are doing the best we can in safeguarding. So I wanted to talk to you today about the Equity, Diversity and Inclusion tool that we have been developing at Keystone for the last few months. So it is a standardized survey, and it provides a diagnostic of current situation and practices by giving voice to the staff and the volunteers of the organizations themselves to express their concerns, and it provides a baseline for where we stand, but it can also be used over time to record and check on progress made on these issues. The idea is here to identify potential risks and ask for suggestions from the participants in the survey about how to tackle them. It is a way for organizations to leadership to demonstrate commitment and accountability with equity, diversity, and inclusion. And it has the purpose to not be something that will only be discussed at the board level or at the leadership level, but that it can be used to create a dialogue and help improve culture within the organizations. So the idea here is to generate easily digestible data that can be shared across the organization, showing where we are, and can be used not for a report that will be put in a drawer somewhere, but using kind of also our approach, our constituent voice approach, use it to engage in dialogue with the different sectors within the organization and to lead to course corrections and to actions for improvement. However, this tool is not a reporting mechanism for abuse, harassment, or discrimination. It refers to the procedures and policies that are established with each one of the organizations, but this tool, while it can surface existing issues, it is not meant to serve as a reporting mechanism. The main traits of the tool is that it is independently operated by a third party, in this case us, Keystone. It is completely confidential. The results are shared directly with the organization, and Keystone does not publish any results that are attributable to an organization, unless, of course, the organization agrees to it. It is completely anonymous, so, and this is why also it cannot serve as a reporting mechanism. It is a completely anonymous survey that not only the organization receiving the data will not know who said what, but even us who are collecting the data don't know who said what. We use an encrypted system with a kind of double anonymity protection that does not record any kind of data that may identify respondents. So no IP addresses or geolocation data are recorded. As I said, it is a tool that is specifically tailored for non-governmental NGOs, non-governmental organizations, sorry. So we have been using our experience and knowledge of the sector to create a tool that it addresses specifically the power dynamics that may exist within this kind of organizations. A lot of us maybe in other types of workplaces or even within the NGOs may have received at some point a survey that comes from human resources and that asks questions as well that are related to equity, diversity, and inclusion. However, they tend to be very generic tools that don't specifically tackle or address issues that may be relevant, as I said, for non-governmental organizations and the power dynamics that are present in them. It is a tool that collects both quantifiable data, so perceptions from staff and volunteers that are quantified, but also qualitative data. There are open-ended questions in the survey that allow us to collect stories from from the experience of the respondents, but also suggestions about how to improve current policies and procedures. We also, for those organizations that desire so, we also offer the possibility of following up and dwelling in more detail in the results of this survey by a series of in-depth interviews. And again, as I was saying at the beginning, we are constructing this tool based on our experience with the INGO partner survey, and our intention is to build benchmarks for the NGO sector on equity, diversity, and inclusion, and how these are applied within NGOs. So the questionnaire that we use has 21 questions, which are a mix of quantitative questions. So a lot of them are multiple choice, especially the ones that refer to demographics. Demographics here are, as you can imagine, very important, as they will allow us to disaggregate results and look at how different issues affect different groups or individuals within the organization. We ask questions around gender, sexual orientation, religion, where they're based, their age, educational levels, etc. And then we cover a series of areas. So when it comes to equity, we are asking questions about whether staff from different groups or locations are being valued and treated equitably, or whether there are equal opportunities in the workplace. We ask, for example, whether people feel that there is a gap between in how people are being paid, for example, a gender gap. Then regarding diversity, we ask about whether they feel that there is enough diversity in the organization, whether diversity is valued. So, for example, we're asking whether they feel that the organization is making an effort in its recruitment practices to promote diversity. We ask also, for example, whether the board of the organization reflects the diversity that is meant to exist within the organization. When it comes to inclusion, we ask specifically about whether different groups feel that their voices are heard in the organization and whether they can participate meaningfully in decision-making processes. And there is a whole section that covers issues around safeguarding. And we ask very direct questions about whether people have experienced or witnessed sexism, racism, bullying, or other forms of discrimination, harassment, or abuse in the course of their work. And we ask about whether they have seen this happen amongst colleagues, whether this has happened with partners of the organization or with those who are meant to benefit from the organization. We also ask very specifically about who might, what kind of people might be the perpetrators of such abuses or harassment. And we ask people also about whether they trust the existing safeguarding and whistleblowing policies and procedures within the organization, and what can be done to improve these. So up until now, we have applied, as I said, it's quite recent development, and we have been applying this tool with 6 organizations, all of them international NGOs, with more than, the ones that we have worked with, more than 30 members of staff. And we're also currently implementing a process with a very large NGO that has had a safeguarding crisis themselves. And in that, what is particular about that is that we have partnered with another organization that will be following up the results from the survey with locally held dialogue sessions in each one of the offices of that organization. As I said, what we are looking to do now is build benchmarks. So build our database and start building benchmarks for the sector on these issues of equity, diversity, and inclusion. So I have an announcement to make today that we offer 5 places for the first 5 organizations that would like to sign up that for carrying out this survey for free with your staff and volunteers. And you would be receiving an automated report with your results. And then the 10 following organizations that would like to sign up will also have a very discounted rate. And if you are interested, feel free to sign up by sending me an email, and you have my email address here.